Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Relationship Haven. My name is Gary and I hope you're all having a fantastic day or evening, wherever you are. In today's first story, OP found out that his wife, who he just married a month ago, had been cheating on him with his best friend while they were in their engagement period. After his wife stopped the affair partner then took his own life. Now, his wife wants to reconcile, but OP knows what happened and will be serving her with divorce instead. In the second story, OP found out his wife cheated on him while he was at his cousin's funeral. Now let's get into today's stories. I and my wife have been married for just over a month. My friend worked with me for 3 years and was one of my best friends. One day we were lying in bed and she received a message from one of my friends and immediately swiped up. I asked her what it was and she told me she wants to protect his privacy. I reminded her that she's my wife and she should never hide anything, especially messages from other dudes. She freaked out by saying, "You don't trust me, I can't believe this." I'm sleeping on the couch and then deleted everything off her phone between him and her and blocked him on everything. The next day rolls around and she's still mad at me while I'm also still mad at her. I man up and tell her she's lost some of my trust, but if she was being honest that it really was nothing, then I would forgive her if I can see the message. The next day, I got woken up by a call from my coworker, a different one, that my friend killed himself the night before. I was dumbfounded and shocked. I had just seen him 2 days before and we were talking about him taking a day off to go fishing. I could tell that my wife was taking it hard too and I thought it was odd because she had only met him 3 or 4 times. A few days later, the day after we celebrated our 1 month, I got a call from the wife saying she needed to talk to me, then unloaded information that my wife and friend had been talking about for months. I came over and she showed me the messages that said, "I can't wait for our future together. I can't wait to meet our children, I love you," and talked about how magical the other day was. I scrolled through the messages for about 30 minutes and didn't even get to the end of the week. The last text he sent was to my wife saying, "I love you, this isn't your fault." When I came home she was gone. I went on a 2-day bender with no contact with her, and called my family to let them know what happened. They then put me in contact with their lawyer and after close to 6 hours of talking to him, I decided to file for a divorce. Last night I got a message from her that said, "I want to work through this and we should both go to individual and couples counseling." I haven't messaged her back. I'm terrified that she will try to rake me over the coals, but I hope that she is civil about everything and says, "My stuff is mine and your stuff is yours." I hope that she isn't pregnant too. Update. First, I wanted to say thank you to everyone for your support. This has been a hard few weeks, but I've gotten through it mostly sober and well enough with the help of my friends and family. Second, I'd like to explain the backstory a bit. Me and my future ex-wife have been dating for 6 years and engaged since February. We got married in September and in most of that time we dated, I worked over the road for 4 years. And in the last 2 years, I settled into a nice little town where there was steady work in my field that didn't require me to move around a lot. Third, the man that she cheated on me with was a good friend of mine. He lived in the same town that I settled in and we were fishing buddies for 2 to 3 years. I got him a job with me and we worked together for 3 years. I've had him and his girlfriend over at my place for dinner and have been over at theirs for dinner multiple times. I didn't invite him to our wedding because of a joke he told where the punchline was about sleeping with someone's wife and he stared at me for 1 or 2 seconds too long and it made my stomach churn. Fourth, I discovered that my wife broke things off with him the day before he committed suicide and that my wife was the last person he texted before doing the deed. I did not attend a funeral or memorial service for the recently departed. I've been trying to keep my contact with my wife to as little as possible, answering questions about health insurance and other similar things. Shortly after my first post, I hired a lawyer and had him start writing up the paperwork for a divorce. 3 to 4 days after she left, I was told by my friend that my wife texted her and said she was in the hospital for a suicide attempt. An hour later, I got a text from my wife saying she was released because she promised not to hurt herself to the staff. I think she was lying. That's not how hospitals in that area deal with life-ending attempts. A day after that, I got the Apple Watch from the departed man's girlfriend which has messages dating back to the day that we got back from our honeymoon in early October. I gave the watch to the lawyer and he has all the messages and pictures now for the case. They both deleted messages so I can't see them till we get the phone back from the police. There has really been no other communication besides setting up a time when she can come and get more of her clothes. Me and my friend's girlfriend have talked occasionally, and I thanked her for telling me even though I know it must have been extremely heartbreaking for her. I'm going to be gifting her a lot of stuff or just probably anonymous cash in the mailbox to help her and her daughter out. The divorce was filed and she should be getting served soon by the end of today or by next week. I still do not think she knows about my plans for divorce and I'm fine with that. The lawyer said that our state is a no-fault state, so technically she would have the ability to try and claim half of my things, but since the marriage was so short, the judge will just separate us with our things from before the marriage. I'm not looking to go after anything of hers. I don't want her car. I don't want her money. Not that she has any. I just want to keep my house, car, dogs, and retirement, and I just hope that she is not pregnant. So after a while, more and more people from work started telling me that they knew about the affair, but didn't want to tell me because it wasn't my place or I didn't want to make things awkward. Apparently the guy was not quiet about it and was sending her nudes around work. So I've had guys coming up showing me my wife saying, "Hey dude, isn't this your wife?" I also learned that she sent him money a couple of times, part of the money that I had sent her to pay for the wedding. I also learned that they had been continually calling each other daily 3 to 6 times a day for months, and at some point they had gotten a hotel room together sometime in August or September. She has continually lied until I brought up all the facts. She got served this weekend and I couldn't be happier, although everything honestly seems bland and bleak. I spent the last 6 years of my life dedicated to her. We were planning our future and she threw it all away, and she really thought that there would be some semblance of forgiveness and a relationship that we could heal together after this. I have my family and certain friends to thank for their constant love and support. I wanted to thank each and every one of you for your advice and support through this time in my life. Wow, OP. I'm incredibly sorry to hear what you have gone through. In my opinion, the only reason that your wife wants you back is that she can't have him. Her affair partner is gone, and knowing that means she needs someone to fall back on and sees you as that person. I'm glad to hear you did not tolerate that whatsoever and served her with divorce papers. Now she's lost both her affair partner forever, as well as her husband forever. She will now pay the consequences of her actions for the rest of her life, and will have to live with the guilt of knowing that she ruined her marriage and caused another man to take his life. Talk about karma. Best of luck to you, OP. Now let's get into today's second story. My ex-girlfriend and I were together for a little over a year, and I'm convinced she's a total and complete narcissist. I struggled with codependency, so it was a match made in hell. I was always too attached to her and continuously chased the love and affection she showered me with in the beginning, which quickly went away and never returned. Last November she started seeing a guy that she works with. They're both personal trainers at a gym. I know I should have realized she would be shallow and dull, but I was just always in denial about her. There were all kinds of red flags that I ignored or made light of to avoid being alone. She was always belittling, demeaning, and gaslighting me. I had a habit of defending myself and would constantly argue with her. In November, right around our 1-year mark, she went to a movie together with another girl trainer and this guy. I will call him Steve. She didn't tell me about Steve or their plans until she was about to leave for this movie, and got a call from him to confirm. I could hear it in her voice that she was into this dude. She lit up and was smiley and flirtatious. I told her this bothered me, and she again gaslighted me and shut me down, then went anyway without considering to invite me. I was mortified. Shortly after that, she told me she wanted time and space from all our fighting. She used that time to go to a work party with Steve, and then came back to his house after for a number of hours. I now know they watched a movie and he romantically showed her how to play guitar. Most likely they kissed then, but she claims nothing happened. Originally she lied about this event entirely and said she was just out with work friends for a while and then came home and that Steve wasn't there. Before this, when agreeing to the space and time, I asked if we would promise to not see other people until we decide whether to separate fully or stay together. We lived together at this time as well. One time after the initial signs of infidelity, she said her passcode out loud one time, so I memorized it and was able to read their messages. I kept this hidden from her for a long time. I originally got her to tell the truth by saying my intuition was telling me she was lying, and it worked. There's probably still more to the story that she left out. After she came clean and stopped lying, I almost left her, but she begged me to stay. Foolishly, I did. We moved into a new place together almost right after this to satisfy her unhappiness. Shortly after, she went out and did the same exact thing again. This past weekend I had a funeral to go back to in my hometown on Sunday for my first cousin to whom I was close with. I kept asking her to go with me for the support weeks in advance, but she had an inventory meeting on Sunday and made excuses for why she couldn't get out of it. Her and I got into a fight, so I left early on Saturday. She told me she was going to stay with her parents again after we got into that fight. While I was in town visiting my family on Saturday, she told me she was going to hang out with one of her girlfriends. She was so lazy about it that she didn't bother even giving any details. I instantly knew it was a lie. Sure enough, when I got home Sunday night, I read the messages on her Apple Watch she left at our house. Turns out that the night before, instead of being with the girlfriend she said she was actually with him. They went out and ate food, then went back to his place and were there until 11 p.m. I called her immediately and confronted her about it after I read their conversations, and she again persistently lied to me. She began to say they just hung out shortly after work and got Chipotle. After I told her I read her messages and knew she was lying, she finally knew she was cornered and confessed that she went there and that they kissed. They probably did more, but she claimed they didn't have sex. She was completely void of any remorse or guilt and actually got defensive and turned it around on me. Last night she came to talk to me about moving her stuff out of our place as we were clearly breaking up, but her actual motive was to come searching for her MDMA pills. I had already thrown them away. She got furious and started telling me she was never sexually attracted to me and just forced it always, and that my quirks are weird and not lovable, and that she will eventually have sex with this guy just to rub it in and twist the knife in even further. We all know they have already had sex. She lies whenever she can. I have definitely told her off and given her an earful, but still I feel so depleted and angry. This is the worst betrayal I've ever experienced. I had a 1-year-long relationship with a pure narcissist. Here's how I know for sure. She brought the guy to my house after the cheating and breakup. Earlier in the day, I sent her an email telling her I'm going to leave all her stuff out on the sidewalk, since I knew she spent the night at his house last night, and lied to her parents about where she was staying. She didn't respond to my email, and hours later her and her new boyfriend literally showed up at my house unannounced and tried forcing their way in. I fought them off and didn't allow either one into my house, then stepped outside and had a verbal and then physical altercation with the douchebag. The guy was a small bulky gym rat loser. We broke my allopot fighting, and after I scared them back off to her car. After they left, I moved all of her stuff outside onto the sidewalk and porch. Some things broke in my anger. Hours later, my ex and her dad came to pick it all up. I was inside, but then I walked out, and as I passed her I spat in her direction while speaking on the phone to my grandfather. I walked to my neighbor's porch who had witnessed the fight, and he came out to watch with me. She walked over to us and asked me if she needed to expect the police at her house, since I had threatened to file a restraining order. I replied, I don't know, maybe. She grumbled something, and then my neighbor and I told her to leave, and she did. That was the last time I'll ever speak to her. Opie, I do not mean to pile on your pain, but I need to say this out of concern for you. You come off as quite the doormat in this story. You clearly knew a long time ago this girl was toxic, was going to hurt you, but you persisted in trying to fix the relationship. Please stop. If someone treats you disrespectfully like this, lies to you like this, at the first sign, walk away. Not every relationship works. Not everyone is good. I wish you the best of luck in the future, OP, and hope you can heal from this situation. Thanks for taking your time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation, or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Hey there folks, welcome back to my channel Relationship Haven. In today's story, OP found out his wife cheated on him with her married affair partner. Then after her affair partner dumped her, she started freaking out after finding out OP was going to divorce her. Then, even worse news broke, that the affair partner had been diagnosed with an incurable STD. Now the wife is panicking even more. Talk about karma. Let's get into today's story. 1. Unfaithful wife that I still have trust issues with will probably contact her affair partner soon despite agreeing to no contact and the consequence of divorce. TLDR. Wife of many years fell out of love with me and had a physical affair with a married man. She fell in love with him, he dumped her, but they remained friends until I discovered the affair. They carried on messaging each other until my wife heard me speaking to a divorce lawyer and panicked and proceeded to love bomb me. Is there any hope for a marriage? Could she be a unicorn? I'm approaching the 1-year anniversary of my D-Day. Here is my story. We are both in our mid-40s. We have been together for more than 30 years since high school. We have 2 teenage children. My wife, her choice, has been a stay-at-home mom for the most of the last 15 years whilst I work hard in a stressful but well-paid job to provide for our family. A few years ago, my wife and I went through the traumatic experience of the death of one of our children. My wife struggled more than myself. I tried to remain strong for her and our other children. She had bereavement counseling, but that did not help her. Her mental state, due to our loss, was all over the place and things got progressively worse with our marriage. Around 2 years ago, we had a massive drunken argument. I said lots of nasty things, called her names, no physical abuse. I was stupid and immature. I did not apologize for my outburst, and this resulted in a dead bedroom and a lack of good communication. I turned to alcohol and I became depressed about the whole situation. This time last year, I was considering divorce. I wanted things to get better between us, but I knew we both had to change for that to happen. As a last throw of the dice, I suggested marriage counseling. She declined, but I had individual counseling. This helped me. I gave up drinking, I lost a lot of weight, and I got into my best ever physical shape with lots of exercise. My mental health and attitude towards my wife improved. We were both happier. We had just started becoming intimate again, and it looked like our marriage could survive. So things were looking up again until, by sheer chance, I discovered her affair. In retrospect, there were lots of red flags, but I always trusted her and assumed she would never cheat on me. I did some snooping and confronted her with only a small amount of what I knew. Initially, the affair was denied and I got the trickle truth. For example, she told me she had only kissed her affair partner a few times, but her story had lots of holes in it. I caught her totally off guard with the confrontation and my questions. The next day, I was all set to show her my proof that they had gone beyond kissing each other when she admitted to having unprotected sex on more than one occasion with the affair partner. But it was over now as he had finished it. The physical affair had started not long after our big drunken argument the year before. She came out with the classic line, "I still loved you but was no longer in love with you." She recently told me that because of the arguments that she thought I no longer loved her when her affair started. This was not true. I did still love her despite our problems, as she would have found out if we were communicating and had asked me. Following her confession, I took my wife's phone off of her. She gave me the passcode and passwords to email and social media apps. I read all their available messages. There were gaps in chats probably removed just before her confession of the physical affair. But by now I had pretty much the full story. The day after, I messaged the affair partner from my wife's phone to get his side of the story, and to threaten him should he carry on seeing my wife. His story matched my wife's version. He had finished the physical affair due to the damage it would cause to both families, and he wanted a life with his betrayed spouse and not my wayward spouse. He told me what an amazing person my wife was. She had fallen for him, and that's when he ended it because it was getting too serious for him. He apologized to me and said that he would tell his wife what he had done. I told him that was up to him, as I didn't want someone else to suffer the pain I had suffered. I told him that if he ever saw my wife again, then I would tell his wife. I did not tell him to break off contact because my plan was to install keylogger software on my wife's phone. Bear in mind that we were in the middle of lockdown at this point in time, so there was no way that they could see each other. For the next few weeks, they would message each other. My wife told her affair partner that I knew about them. The affair partner did not tell her that I had messaged him. It was amusing to watch this unfold. They were now having arguments and blaming each other for their affair. My wife, in an attempt to save our marriage or stop me kicking her out of her house, was love-bombing me and at the same time giving her affair partner crap for using her and treating her badly. However, she also said she wished that they could see each other and chat properly about what had happened. She did appear to show remorse for how much her actions had hurt me. She admitted to me that she had been selfish. I asked her if she had ever cheated on me before. She answered that with a subtle difference to the question, that it was her one and only affair. I am now suspicious she had a one-night stand with a former boyfriend many years ago, but I have no proof. She said she had fallen back in love with me because I had changed for the better, but as we all know, actions speak louder than words, and you cannot believe a word that a cheater says. Even at this point, she was still sending messages to him, although they were innocent messages, as they were discussing their hobby, which is where they first met and got to know each other as friends. I phoned a lawyer to discuss my options and see how things would look should we divorce. My wife overheard some of the conversation, and this seemed to wake her up to the reality of the situation. Soon after, my wife sent a final message to the affair partner telling him that she would not be chatting any longer, and he was not to get in touch with her ever again. Contact between them did stop, and at this point it gave her some boundaries and the consequences should she break them. One of the rules was no contact or see the affair partner ever again, and if he contacted her to let me know immediately. I told her if she broke that rule I would divorce her. She agreed to this. I told her she needed counseling to work on herself and find the reason why she did what she did. She agreed, although she said she felt forced to go but only went twice and then stopped, telling me she already knows the reasons for her affairs, so it did not need any more counseling. I saw the same counselor a dozen times, and despite client confidentiality, my counselor did tell me my wife was remorseful. This was a few months ago. My wife and I have been getting on better than ever. I do love her, but I have not forgiven her yet. There has been no contact between my wife and her affair partner, but I have reason to believe that may change shortly. Finally, given all that information, the questions I have are: 1. Does anyone think my wife has any chance of redeeming herself and remaining faithful to me, or should I run a mile? 2. Should she contact the affair partner again, as I suspect she will, even though it will be to chat about something innocent? Should I file for divorce as she will have broken the no contact rule? 3. If the divorce is not the answer, is there anything else she or I should do for a successful reconciliation? Edit for update. I am so grateful for all your replies. This has really helped me. I will try and respond to each one and answer questions. Here's the update. As I suspected, my wayward spouse has contacted her affair partner. She will not face the consequences. I posted my story a couple of weeks ago. I received lots of help, advice, and also some vitriol in the chat function. I read all the replies but could not respond to all of them due to time. I ignored the abuse. There are some strange people out there. No idea what your agenda is, but it's water off a duck's back to me. To recap, the timeline is not exact, but the story is. We've been together for over 30 years. We started dating in high school. 2 years ago, my wife and I were going through a rough patch and she had an affair. D-Day was 12 months ago at the start of lockdown. Unbeknown to my wife, I read some of their messages. It appeared the physical affair was over, but they were still in contact. I later discovered that he had finished the physical affair 7 months prior to D-Day. Probably because my wayward spouse had fallen in love with him, and he was never going to leave his wife. She was upset and hurt that he had dumped her, especially as he had told my wife that he loved her. They remained friends and continued to message each other. My wife told him that she could not get him out of her head. This time last year, I had never heard of Reddit. I did not know who to ask for help or advice. I know my methods are a bit messed up, but my cunning plan was to try and get the whole truth about the affair and determine if our marriage could be saved. Not an easy thing to do when you cannot believe a word a cheater says. My wife could not see the affair partner, so I assumed she would contact him using her phone to tell him that I knew about the affair. For the next 6 months, whilst we were supposedly trying to fix things, I could, without my wife's knowledge, see their messages. Some brief highlights are as follows. They lied to each other and they both blamed each other for the affair. He said their friendship crossed the line and he regretted what they did. My wife never said she regretted the affair. He cherished their moments together but also wanted to try and forget it ever happened. An oxymoron? My wife told him that she hated him and that he had used her. He denied this, but other times she said that she missed him. Also contradictory. She said that she was broken and she could not live with the hurt she had caused me. So at times she did display some signs of remorse. On a number of occasions she said that would not be able to see him again, and she was not going to contact him ever again. A few days later she would message him. During these 6 months I got myself into great physical shape. I had individual counseling. There was hysterical bonding. My wife told me that she had made a huge mistake. She wanted a future with me. I meant the world to her. She had fallen back in love with me. I asked her if she could go back in time and change things. What would she do differently? Her reply was to not let a good friendship turn into an affair, and fix things between us before the affair started. She told me that she would accept any consequence but begged me not to tell our children what she had done. Our children do not deserve to be hurt. The truth was she did not want them to hate her. On the plus side, my wayward spouse did not say anything derogatory about me to the affair partner. At least not from messages I have read. But she must have said stuff about our marriage to him previously. He said things like, "I hope you can correct the things that were wrong between you. I hope you can move forward," etc. On the negative side, my wayward spouse told him that I loved her, and she was going to be okay presumably because she thought I was not going to leave her, but she never said to the affair partner that she loved me. At one point she got angry with the affair partner and said, "All I need is my children." She never said that she needed me or loved me. 6 months ago I thought reconciliation was going to be impossible. I rang a lawyer to discuss my options. My wife eavesdropped on some of the conversation. I don't know how much she heard, but this was the wake-up call she obviously needed. At this point her attitude changed and she finally broke off contact with the affair partner. I set some boundaries and consequences. The main one being no contact under any circumstances, otherwise I will divorce her. She agreed to all my conditions. Given all the messages I had read between them, I was doubtful that she would not contact him again, but for 5 months she maintained no contact and things seemed to be going in the right direction between us. A few weeks ago my wife discovered from a mutual friend of theirs that the affair partner has an incurable disease. I thought she would contact him, and sure enough she has done. She has betrayed my trust yet again. The messages were innocent enough to begin with. She sent him positive thoughts. She hoped the treatment would be a success, but then she said, "Getting better soon and look forward to seeing you soon," and the final dagger into my broken heart. One last thing, do you regret meeting me? No. Good, me either. That's all folks, I'm done with her. There is nothing left worth fighting for. I know divorce is going to cause me and our children hurt and financial hardship. I know she has mental issues, but she is not willing to get help and I cannot force her. I know there is no point wasting any additional time trying to understand her actions, but I still wonder how she could do this to me and our children. I'm going to speak to a lawyer again, this time without her knowing, and get her served. I hope to get joint custody of her children. The starting point for the split of our financial assets will be 50-50, but I want to try and get more than this by hook or by crook. I will be receiving some inheritance once the house of my deceased relative is sold. I also have Bitcoin that I purchased a few years ago, and the value of this has increased to a nice amount of money. I also have a large pension pot. Is it possible to prevent my soon-to-be ex-wife getting her hands on the proceeds? Edit. Thanks everyone for your replies. Some really helpful info. I'm in the UK. I will try and answer as many questions as I can. Update. Trial separation. Good or bad idea? Today my adulterous wife offered to stay at her parents' house for a short while to help me heal and decide what I want to do. This suits me as I need a break from her. I can plan my exit strategy better and sample what life on my own and with our teenage children would look like. Our children are unaware of their mother's adultery, so she or us are going to have to tell them soon or come up with an amazing excuse as to why their mother has temporarily moved out. Telling the truth to our children is obviously the best strategy. Something my wife has been desperately trying to avoid, so I'm waiting for her to have a change of heart on a trial separation. Assuming the trial separation goes ahead, I expect it won't be long before she will be pleading to come back home and make a fresh start. What sort of conditions should I set for the trial separation? Things like she must stay away from her affair partner, etc. One last thing. A little anecdote from today. I was triggered this weekend when I ended up cycling through a park that I knew my wife and her affair partner met for one of their trysts. I knew from GPS that they had spent about 90 minutes stationary in one particular secluded wooded area of the park. She does not know what I know, but I have never asked for details of their sexploits. I know they were not having a picnic and I did not expect the truth, but out of curiosity I asked my wife what kind of sex did she and her affair partner have in the park and how long were they there. Her reply, wait for it. Unsure how long we were there as we did go for a run. It wasn't what you probably describe as full-blown sex. How would you describe it? Fumbling, I suppose. A few more questions for myself as this was a bit bizarre, and then I asked, did you give him oral sex? She proceeded to start waffling on about her counselor telling her that it's not a good idea to talk about the sexualist side of things. So the answer is yes then. Where did he finish? He didn't. And apparently neither did she. He did not give her oral either. In conclusion, that is a lot of time spent fumbling with no end result. Edit. A quick update on the fumbling episode. I decided to question her further due to her version being a bit strange. I said all I want is the truth and how I'm supposed to believe anything she says when she continues to lie to me. She has told me they did not have oral. They tried to have full intercourse, but on this occasion he had trouble getting it up. I do actually believe her now, but why would she not say this? Could she have been saving his embarrassment? I still think she would have tried some oral to get him ready. So the story has changed to over an hour of trying to get him up and not achieving much. She admitted that he didn't have any ED at the other park, so maybe this park was not to his liking. OP, I'm glad to hear about the immediate action you took on this situation. As soon as you found out about the affair, you immediately contacted your lawyer, which is good on your part. Your wife wants to reconcile now because she's realized that she has completely messed up her life. With cheaters, you have to let karma serve its justice. Also, I would highly recommend that you tell the affair partner's wife. She needs to know about the damage her husband has done to your life as well as hers. I would also tell the kids what happened so they can truly know what kind of mother they have. I would also highly recommend an STI check since it could have gone from him to her to you. Let's see what the comments had to say about the situation. First up from Admirably801, get a lawyer, make it official, and in writing she must stay at her parents', not just show up. She must tell the children the truth for the trial separation. She must go zero contact since it bothers you. She must give a full timeline including when and where sexual intercourse took place. She should know the timeline will be followed up by polygraph test to confirm. Explain to her you care what she or her therapist thinks for years, what you thought did not matter to such an extent that she by her own admission fell in love with another man. It must also be a requirement that she tells the affair partner wife herself. This is within a week of her moving out. If she refuses, you will know whether there is a chance of her and her affair partner or not. If she values him or you more, if you are more valuable like she now claims, she will do anything for your love to keep you. If she refuses, it's just a rug sweep and he is more important. If she refuses to come clean, I will go with divorce. No marriage can come back from her choosing him again. If she wants you to heal, she must do the work, even if it means her affair partner is hurt. I would include penalties. If she fails, she is not allowed to return to the marital home. I promise you her phone or whatever media she uses to communicate with the affair partner will increase the minute she leaves the house. You have not realized she loves him. You are the one she settled for. Her last message says that she has no remorse for meeting him, but she lies to you saying it was a mistake. She knows she cannot keep going on like this, but just once more because he is all she can think of, whether you postpone it or not. She loves him. If you and your kids hurt now or later, it's going to be the same. Good luck, op. Thanks for taking your time to listen to today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's story. Hey folks, welcome back to my channel Relationship Haven. In today's story, OP found out his wife cheated on him with a guy that is nothing like OP. The guy is broke, has a restraining order against him, and still lives with his parents at 42 years old. Now she claims she wants to reconcile. In today's second story, OP found out his wife cheated on him with her adopted brother. Now let's get into today's stories to find out what happened. I'm contemplating divorcing my wife of 16 years and mother to my 4-year-old son. In January, she revealed she had been having an emotional affair which began 6 months earlier. She had just broken things off. I was in shock hearing this. I thought we had had a loving relationship and a wonderful life together. Things weren't perfect, but overall there was a lot to be happy about. We both had rewarding careers, a child we completely adored, and a beautiful home. I saw us as best friends, and there was no one I would have rather spent time with. However, it's fair to say that the degree of intimacy in our relationship waned several years prior to our son's birth, starting with a long bout of infertility and continuing after we conceived our son through IVF. Infertility and being a new parent took its toll. We struggled for 9 months raising a baby who suffered from severe colic. One time, our baby was screaming so loud that a neighbor called the police to do a welfare check. It was rough. The colic subsided, but bedtime still seemed never-ending. It was only very recently that our son moved out of our bedroom to start sleeping in his own room. I don't think the word exhaustion does justice to the feelings we've mutually experienced. In my mind, there were challenges of parenthood, ones we shared equally. When my wife expressed worry about the lack of intimacy in our life, I knew on the one hand that she was right, though I didn't know how to change things. On the other hand, it seemed like the demands of being a new parent offered a reasonable explanation. I also believed that intimacy was something that could or would ebb and flow, more the former in those early trying years. My wife didn't feel the same way. I think she saw our lack of intimacy as a failing in our relationship and was deeply unhappy about it, more so than she was willing to admit. Then she met her affair partner and was somehow awakened to the true depth of this void in her life. We started seeing a couples therapist in the fall. Unbeknownst to me, Her affair was playing out in parallel. I felt a deep distrust after learning about my wife's emotional affair, and small details nagged at me. Was this exclusively an emotional affair, or did more happen? What was the extent of their relationship and how meaningful was it to her? Over the course of several months, I uncovered many details that weren't really volunteered, or rather, I was able to dig up information through my own investigative efforts. For example, data recovery, monitor emails, checking browser history, and so on. With each new detail came a new revelation, and I learned that much more had happened than I was first led to believe. My wife went out of town on 3 overnight trips during the past fall and winter. Each time I gave her my encouragement. She was leaving to work on writing projects or go snowshoeing with friends, and I believed these were activities to be nourished. I stayed home and took care of our son. Later, I learned that she met up with her affair partner on every single trip. I learned that they had exchanged sexually explicit pictures and videos. Unfortunately, I saw some of this material too. I learned that they had sex on many occasions. They told each other, "I love you." At some point, they envisioned a future together, but needed to be patient while biding their time. However, in January, my wife decided to break it off with her affair partner. Things did not go well. She was on the receiving end of abusive and threatening text messages. My wife became very controlling with regard to her affair partner. I was urged to block his phone number and email address and Instagram account so that he could not try to contact me. I was made to feel that he was a mentally unstable individual, an unpredictable person that I and we should be afraid of. I started sleeping in my son's room, which is on the main floor. I wanted to be sure I would hear if he tried to break in. He would drive by in the middle of the night and throw bags of things on our lawn. The police were called. Unfortunately, that's not where things ended. We continued to go to therapy, which shifted its focus to the affair. However, my wife was unable and unwilling to completely sever contact with her affair partner. They continued to text. He bought her a Valentine's Day gift. She bought him a birthday present. They continued to see each other. They were still intimate with one another. One day, I slipped my phone into our car, turned the GPS on, and watched her drive to his house and stay there for 2 hours. It's hard to grapple with all the things I've dealt with, and it's hard to reconcile how my wife could allow herself to be in such a toxic relationship. Her affair partner is the polar opposite of me. He's unstable, broke, and lives with his parents. He's 42 years old. His ex-partner has a protection order against him, and he has only limited and supervised access to his own children. I don't know what to say. I love or loved my wife. I love our family. This is not what I wanted. OP, here are my thoughts on the situation. You are aware of what has happened. You need to gather evidence and talk with the lawyer about your options. You do realize that as your wayward wife continues this facade, you're putting your own child's safety and well-being at risk. She's checked out of this marriage, which you're hanging on to and using lies, deception, and gaslighting as a way to keep you as a doormat. Check your state laws as to reasons for divorce. If you live in a no-fault state, it may make things harder for you. If you do seek legal advice, have any visitation on the part of the wayward wife, stipulate no visitors of the opposite sex while having visitation, since you already know the affair partner is mentally unstable. Let's see what the comments had to say about this situation. Kranick said, "I know that you deeply love your wife and I'm very sorry that you're in this situation, but you are no longer just together with her. You are responsible for your son now as well, for his mental and physical well-being. Where do you think your son will be when your wife wants to see her affair partner while she has to look after your son because you're at work or somewhere else? She needs to learn that she destroyed the bond you once had, that all trust and respect is lost. Not that you have to fight for her. She walked out. She betrayed you. If she wants this marriage to survive, then she has to fight, not you. It is your job to show her that you no longer tolerate her affair, her disrespect, and her selfish, entitled behavior. Build up a bed in your son's room and sleep there. Ignore her presence at home unless it is about the kid. Stop going to marriage counseling. That is good for nothing for as long as she lies. Tell her that you will not even shake her hands before she meets with a doctor and gets tested for STDs now and in 3 months. Then do the most important step. Go to a lawyer, prepare the divorce papers, and serve her with divorce papers. Now let's get into today's second story. This is my first time posting, so please bear with me. This happened to me just a couple of days ago. Let me provide some background. I've been with my girlfriend for 1 year. She has 2 kids of her own. I myself have one. Our story starts way back in 8th grade. She was my first love. I moved to Los Angeles, which led to us separating, and of course people move on. Throughout the years we kept in touch here and there. I always knew I loved her and would from time to time think about her. Last October I reached out to her and we began to reconnect. Shortly after we started dating. Last May we discovered she was pregnant. She is now 5 months along. Now to the present day. We now live together and have been preparing for the baby's arrival. Things had seemed to be going pretty well for the most part, but for the past couple of weeks I had noticed her acting very strange, especially in regard to her iPad, which is connected to her phone. So all photos, texts and calls are registered to it as a result of having it synced. She's a hairstylist, so she would leave it at work in her locker or in her car. About a week ago she asked me to watch the kids while she went out to work for a couple of hours. While at home I heard her iPad going off, so I went ahead and checked to see what it was. The messages she received were from her older adopted brother. He was adopted at a very early age by her father before she was even born, from my understanding. The messages began neutral, nothing out of the ordinary, until the really awful stuff started to show. The messages led into lots of sexting and nudes being sent from her to him. They also planned days to meet up when she wouldn't have the kids with her so that they could have sex. However, this is where it gets confusing. Throughout the text messages she made excuses as to why she couldn't have sex, but could only hang out, even though she was clearly scheduling days to see him. A few hours later she arrived home and I confronted her about the entire thing. Her response was that he took advantage of her a couple of years back while she was drunk, and from there it started to become a common consensual occurrence. She eventually put a stop to it, but recently it had started back up, and she had been trying to get him to stop pursuing her by sexting him and cutting it short because she didn't want to lose her brother. She also stressed that they haven't had sex recently. She just saw him 2 weeks ago. It all sounded like bullshit to me, so I packed up and left. I'm shocked, and now I've had doubts that the baby is even mine, because I can't believe anything she says. A part of me wants to understand and even go back to her for the baby's sake. I don't know what to do at this point. I'd appreciate any advice. OP, here are my thoughts on the situation. You need to get a paternity test ASAP. And then also let her parents know what happened so she doesn't go around spinning the narrative. You also need to contact a lawyer and get an STD test. I wish you the best of luck with your situation, OP. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you'd like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me.